Good evening, everybody. Keith here. We're going to wait a minute or two here and see if we can't get some people on. But in the meantime, I wanted to let everybody know I was coming back on anyway, so I didn't say anything about doing these videos for you people. But I want you to understand, I do these videos for you people, because if it wasn't for you people, I wouldn't be doing this. I have a duty to help my fellow man. And what that tells me is if I have information available to help my fellow man from being further injured, then I should be bringing that forward. And so that's all I do. And I only bring forth a message. I hope you don't listen to me as a messenger, but understand the message that I'm trying to send is one of a moral compass. So, and I only do that for you guys. I think I've already got a pretty well built moral compass, and I'm trying to pass that on. In the meantime, the video here is in regards to IOUs and promissory notes and the differences therein. When we talk about an IOU, it's the basic form of an agreement, and it's just stating very simply, in the most basic context that I can express it, is I, Keith, owe Bill this. And that's it. It's a basic, simple IOU. Above and beyond that, when we start putting conditions upon it and adding another part to the agreement, thereby making it dual, then we're talking about an acceptance. If I were to say I owed Bill $10 and it came time to make payment, and I wanted to amend my payment agreement I already had in existence, no matter how it was, whether it be verbal or written. And this is an important thing about an IOU. It can be verbal as well. A promissory note must be written. So now we look at the thing about amending that previous contract or previous agreement even. And that's called amending. Now, Bill can turn around and upon my offer, he can accept that amendment. Okay? And this is how all contracts actually start out. This is called offer and acceptance. Okay? And when we talk about the court cases, when we go in to defend, and defend, understand people, is a misnomer, or whatever you want to call it. It's very misleading. You don't want to defend yourself. You want to fend for yourself. Okay? And what we need to understand is that when we get these offers for acceptance, then we need to understand that we have the ability to make the amendments. Okay? And so when they bring these offers, these frivolous, litigious offers forward, all we have to do is make some amendments that point out very basic truths that tear down their facts, their presumptions, their implied presumptions in this and that. And I explain this, when you get accused of practicing law, you break down that presumed implication of needing a license to practice law by simply bringing forth a subpoena for the state licensing commissioner to testify on the stand that there is no such thing. And you can do this in all 50 states. There's no such thing. So you just break down their idiocy with logic and rationale. And that's what we need to do in these promissory notes from now on. We need to start reading this stuff and break down the rationale of what they're doing in them. And we'll talk about that here in a second. First we got to understand that promissory notes are just IOUs with conditional acceptance. In other words, they're placing conditions and terms and other concepts along with just the idea of IOU. And that is basically in your time constructs, giving you like 6 months to pay it back. The number construct of how many payments you make, whether it's once a month or twice a month. the amount of those payments, how much is interest, whether it accrues or it's stable or whatever. These are all conditions and terms that they put on these things, as well as various other things, such as being able to, and you got to think about this, these loans are in a trust format. Therefore, they're constructed as a trust. And you're granting these bank agents to, quote, loan money, but at the same time, you're assigning them a trustee position in a fiduciary capacity, under good faith, of course, and this is where the fraud sits. And they're supposed to conduct those affairs appropriately, but what happens instead, in my firm belief, I'm not going to say I have any proof, but I have a firm belief that they're taking that signature and they're applying it for other powers in assignments to other people. And when we do these loans, they draw up this promissory note and construct it in such a manner so that it benefits them. In other words, they maintain that as negotiable. Okay? And if you qualify your loan papers by making the proper amendments, that note is drawn up in your name, and their only service is to draw that note up in your name. Now, as another service, they can be the party issuing it to the securities market by pooling it with others for sale on the global trade. Or you can maintain those powers to do it yourself through another independent bank or another independent trading agency. So this is what I mean about amending these contracts. You got to understand, you have unlimited power to contract. You have your own beliefs. You have your own choice. And you have the right to change those choices at any time. You have the right to change your beliefs at any time. So if you find a contract isn't up to your standard and it's not equal and impartial, fair and impartial, in other words, both parties or all parties are benefiting equally, and if there comes any detriment, all parties share that detriment equally. This is what contracting is all about. That's what equity is about. This, in fact, is why they brought about the equity courts. When we have to depend upon a commercial system, we have to be able to have compensation of like kind, as well as understand the concept of thou shalt not kill. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but thou shalt not kill. And what that's saying is that we have to start putting a monetary value to the damage that people suffer through the abuse, no matter what kind of abuse it is. Mental, financial, physical, sexual, whatever kind of we have to start being able to put a financial value on that in order to be able to deal with these promissory notes that they're using. But the important thing that we have to do is when we do those contracts with the banks, the loans, what they're doing is they're assigning a certain party with what's known as drawing rights. Those are drawing rights in which give the party presenting the coupon, the promissory note, to the Federal Reserve Bank to draw the funds. Okay? You should reserve that right for yourself. Now, you've got the cash funds to go pay off the house, and you hold the promissory note, or the Federal Reserve holds the promissory note, saying that when that cash starts having value back, or it's backed by value, and you are acquired that value, you are to pay that Federal Reserve back. That's how those promissory notes are supposed to work. Instead, the bank takes them and trades them on the global market by pooling them with others and securitizing them, making profit by claiming abandoned funds because it's revenue that's generated from those securities trades in your name. If you claim them, you pay the taxes on them and you benefit the profit. If they don't tell you that it's there and it sits there for a certain length of time, it goes abandoned and they have the right to claim them. And then they deposit them in their state coffers for retirement funds and IPERs and all that. So understand this stuff, people, and start learning how to take responsibility for your own banking. And I'm going to talk about this because we're going to talk about estate bank and trusts. Um, let's see. Next thing, of course, responsibility, how you take upon the fraud by giving up responsibility. And this is what I'm talking about in the estate, bank, and trust. You start taking upon the fraud and committing the fraud yourself by allowing somebody else to take responsibility for you because it's just convenient. And when that fraud injures other people, the other people are the ones that they're taking these promissory notes and pooling them all together. And what they're doing is they're hurting the sheep. They're penning those sheep in to slaughter. That's what all them promissory notes being pulled together is all about. They're going to send them out to the global market and make the profit and then skin them alive and not even let them know they got skinned. It's your money drawn up in your name. They did so fraudulently. You need to claim it. In order to do that, I suggest we start learning this stuff so we can amend these contracts beforehand. So they know they're not going to be able to defraud you or commit fraud upon you. It's all about learning how to do the banking. So it's your responsibility in the estate, and the estate is the eternal state of inheritance. Okay? And remember, we're going to talk a little bit about time here, because time is the most important factor. First in line, first in time. And nothing can be taken from you through fraud. Fraud vitiates all. So when you learn to start taking responsibility for your estate, and that's talking about your inheritance. Now, no one has the right or privilege to take any property of another's, whether it be tangible or intangible, for any reason. And then when we talk about banking, and this is what I talk about the fraud, okay? Banking actually costs you money to have someone else manage it for you. And what that does is it creates a trust. Because you trust others who then turn around and assign other parties, making at least 3 parties, and that's a trust. Quasi-contracting. You're giving them authority through that signature by not reading these documents and amending them appropriately to take those powers away from them and only give them certain powers to do certain things themselves. If you want somebody else to hand it over to the Federal Reserve and have them do the accounting, you can assign 2 different people to do those things. That's your right. That's your unlimited power to contract. So then, the trust is, you trust others by accepting conditions that allow the other party as trustee, you're the trustor, you granted them that power, to make somebody else a beneficiary. So when you do these house loans and you go out and get a loan for a house, what's happening is you're the trustor, you're giving the bank the trustee position, and he's going to get paid to be trustee position to give possession of your house to the beneficiary known as the county. Ask them what their tax classification is that clarifies they're owning partial interest in it as their property, and thereby it is taxable. It is not. It's misconstrued. It's implied and presumed to be public property or residential property or commercial property or industrial property when it in fact should be listed as private property. And you be listed as the owner instead of the tenant. That's the proof that the county is claiming ownership by calling you the tenant. You are paying rent. Get this stuff straight. So then you see, and I only mention these 3 areas because they are the key to the corruption. And that's why I insist that when I get my shit right, it's going to be the Keith Little estate, bank, and trust. I know my inheritance. I take care of my financial responsibility, and I have my own development of trust. I don't need any outside parties. It's a private member association. I don't need all this quasi-contracting in public. So, again, like I said, when I get ready to do this, I'm going to do my DBA as a bank, an estate bank and trust. Now, an estate bank and trust, of course, has the ability to operate as a trust company and thereby create and make your own bonds, pool them, sell them, securitize them, sell them, make bonds for other people, pool them. It allows you to operate as a bank and a trust company. Educate yourself in this stuff, and you take care of your own responsibility and get rid of the fraud of misapplying the good faith in the people. You become the good faith. That's how we take over this stupid shit. Correct the presumption, the implications, and all the fraud because of the fiction of greed. So anyway, we're talking about, first we have the Keith Little Estate Bank and Trust in all capital letters. That is the main person. Okay? Now you have a trustee who has to take physical responsibility of making any kind of signatures or autographs. That is the trustee. Okay? He's the one authorizing. So then the authorized representative is Keith Orland Little with the first letter of each name capitalized, and then autographed just Keith. Just Keith as an autograph, block English lettering, no cursive or even a mark. I include in my autograph and my mark, which is known as a seal, red thumbprint over the last letter of my calling, the H, and that is Capitis Diminucio. I stand in my private capacity as a man with a spirit of free will, and I have proof. First and foremost. And I claim that I am the authorized representative of the all caps name which I am doing business as. And here's my authorization and my representation, known as an autograph. That's how I present myself. So, now we think about the original trust. The original trust, get to it here. The original trust is your mom and doctor who is employed by the military government. So your mom is in trust with a physical being, a man, a doctor, who is in trust as a person under a military corporation of a fictional government. Okay? And that's the quasi-contract. And then after that trust, that's the original trust. Then after that trust, you have the trust of the county, the state, and the federal government. And that's where they maintain jurisdiction throughout all of their different statutes, codes, rules, and regulations by claiming that court of equity, fair and justiciable, and being in the commercial society, they're bound by contract and trust law, and thereby they're supposed to give equity, but there is none to begin with. Every Federal Reserve note is known to have no value. So it's a fictional system using fictional currency to purport to give some kind of equitable remedy. And that equitable remedy, when you get physically harmed, I don't have the remedy to go over and put a gun in another guy's face and assault him. I don't have the ability to, once one of these guys hits me, I have the right to eye, or eye for eye, but when it comes to these guys hijacking me off the road, I don't have the right to go hijack somebody else off the road, or even them. That's not my right. My responsibility is my ability to respond appropriately so that we quit doing the same thing over and over again. It's called insanity. And therefore, this is one of those things I express everybody. I hope you understand. We need to start studying epistemology. And if you don't know what epistemology is, I'll explain it real briefly. Epistemology, EPISTYMOLOGY. Epistemology, the study of knowledge. And what I want everybody to understand is we don't study knowledge because we're too busy studying beliefs, concepts, theories, facts. Where knowledge is what we get so that we can put it to use for its true intent in good faith, so that we gain wisdom. And this is so important to be able to understand, because that's how we start learning how to take care of our responsibilities. Because like I said, when we don't, and we start handing them over to somebody else, it's not just the financial cost that it's costing us, but it's the financial cost, the physical cost, the mental cost, the emotional cost, all the financial costs of everything that it indoctrinates into everybody else into believing as well. And it's understand, I am in a lot different position than a lot of people, because I don't have anybody I really need to take care of but myself. So I don't do the banking, I don't do the credit cards, checking accounts, things like that. I don't do commerce. I use credit cards and debit cards and cash, but only from other people in barter and trade. I'll provide a service or an intangible piece of knowledge or something. They'll thank me, or I'll do something and try to get a bill taken care of for them, or teach them this or that. And it's all barter and trade. Clean some houses, or do some cooking and cleaning, whatever. This is what we need to get back to. And this is, and I want to try to portray this in the aspect of that capitis diminutio. When we get involved in this commerce and stuff, we're reducing ourselves, and we need to start standing up. And the only place we can truly do that is our own natural self, and that's do no harm, and love thyself as you love thy neighbor. So, anyway. Understand this. This is your responsibility just as much as it's mine. And like I try to finish all my videos out with, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. It's my responsibility. But I love you. God bless. Have a good night.